Batman, dresses like a bat, lives in the shadows, fights crime at night. Spider-Man, spins webs, climbs walls, and swings from buildings. Then we get Ant-Man. He shrinks. Released in July 2015, Ant-Man tells the story of hacker and burglar Scott Lang, played by Paul Rudd, who was recently released from prison and hopes to go straight. Unfortunately, his criminal past prevents him from gaining employment, while also preventing him from seeing and supporting his daughter. So in desperation, he turns to his criminal friends, who tip him off about a score, only for the score to be a suit, which leads to Lang being arrested. It turns out it was all deliberately planned by a scientist named Hank Pym, played by Michael Douglas, who wants Lang to help him steal an experimental serum that could be used as a weapon by his former protege, Darren Cross, played by Corey Stoll. But the only way to achieve this plan is for Lang to master the shrinking powers sort of thing of the suit.
My days of breaking into places and stealing stuff are over. What do you want me to do?
I want you to break into a place and steal some stuff.
Makes sense.
Ant-Man is definitely a superhero name that sounds like a joke, but in all honesty, it turned out to be better than it had any right to. It's not perfect, nothing special, but it had a fun energy, and the cast do make it work. Paul Rudd is likeable as Scott Lang, a man in over his head, but willing to risk his life in the hopes of redeeming himself in the eyes of his daughter. Michael Douglas adds gravitas as the original Ant-Man Pym, who, like Lang, is trying desperately to right the past mistakes that's almost destroyed him. Evangeline Lilly is okay as Hope, and while starting off flaky, she does show some vulnerability. And I'm not gonna lie, I so wish I was in Lang's shoes here.
You lucky bastard!
Here, Michael Pena brings a goofball charm as Lang's oldest friend Louise, as well as some decent support from Damon Malchin and T.I. While it might not be as epic as the Avengers, I do like the Ocean's 11 style vibe the movie brings. Seeing something more smaller and scaled back seemed like a nice bit of fresh air, and it brought a nice fun twist to the franchise. The fact this is a heist movie where the person has to shrink down in order to pull it off does lead to some very funny creative moments that help the actors work off each other. Not only that, the shrinking also led to some very creative and funny action scenes that seem big, intense and bombastic up close until it zooms out to look more pathetic from a normal person's point of view. Like this scene where they fight on the Thomas the Tank Engine. There's some fun montages, and the fact that this is about two men with regrets trying to repair their broken relationships with their daughters does bring some emotional weight amongst the craziness. But once again, we get a very dull villain, and I know Corey Stoll is a good actor, but he still comes across flat. And it's kind of a shame, as I like the idea that he was almost like a surrogate son to Hank Pym, that Hank grew to dislike because of how he saw too much of himself in him. And as good as Michael Douglas is, he seems to spend the majority of his screen time dumping exposition. Not only that, this was originally going to be directed by Edgar Wright, but after learning it was going to be changed to be more connected to the MCU, he jumped ship, leaving Peyton Reed to take over as director. And while he does a decent job incorporating Wright's style, it's obvious this film would have been stronger with Edgar Wright himself in full creative control. But still, while it's nothing special, this is still a decent caper that, despite its tiny hero, still manages to be big on both the laughs and heart. So that was Ant-Man, and also the end of MCU Phase 2. Yeah, it started off a little dodgy, but eventually it found its way again, evolving its characters while also taking more chances exploring more of this universe, while also making more obscure characters a household name. So would the third phase improve on the first two phases? We'll find that out later, starting with Captain America Civil War.